The following is a News 4 special presentation celebrating Buffalo's rebirth on the waterfront.
I want to thank the people of Buffalo in Western New York for believing, because this day is a day for the believers.
Buffalo reclaimed an important piece of its history today, officially opening the Erie Canal harbor that helped create the Queen City of the Great Lakes.
I scarcely think we'll get another drink till we get to Buffalo. We'll get to Buffalo.
By reclaiming our past, we are forging our future, and I have no doubt that this is going to be a bright one.
Oh, here I was rising. The gin was getting low, and I scarcely think we'll get another drink till we get to Buffalo.
It's a new day for the city of Buffalo, and you have a front row seat to history. History being made in our lifetime. Now, here is News 4 senior correspondent Rich Newberg.
Good evening, and welcome to Buffalo's new Canalside District. It's a work in progress, but it promises no less than a rebirth on the waterfront. Now, in the year and a half since our last special report, the inner harbor has been transformed into a first-rate attraction that brings visitors back to the heyday of the Erie Canal. Sail with us now into Buffalo's vision for the future and relive the Queen City's legendary past, when our waterfront was a major port in the country, with one of the toughest, most colorful neighborhoods that ever existed. We've sure been through a lot of changes through the years. In the next half hour, you'll see how Buffalo finally broke the ice, if you will, reinventing itself on the waterfront in our lifetime. The ice is broken in the winter waters of the Buffalo River as the Buffalo fireboat Cotter clears the way for precious cargo. It is the bridge that will link the city of Buffalo to its glorious past as the nation's gateway to the west. Pulled by the tug West Wind, the Whipple Truss Bridge measures 101 feet long and 20 feet wide and weighs 40 tons. It will cross the rewatered commercial slip of the Erie Canal and serve as its centerpiece. Tom Blanchard has spent close to 2 decades helping to chart the course for Buffalo's waterfront development. And this is one of the days he was looking forward to most, because a large piece of the puzzle will soon be in place.
It's one of a series of final pieces to the project, to the harbor itself. Feels great. It really does.
Those who are close to the project want to capture the moment. They line the route down the Buffalo River, where remnants of what was once the world's grain capital remain frozen in time. The commercial slip was a portal to the world, a hustling, bustling center for trade and commerce, the western terminus of the Erie Canal, where it's been said people, goods, ideas, and attitudes passed through the Canal District. Digging out the slip for rewatering was no simple task. A portion of the huge concrete Hamburg drain, 16 feet wide and 13 feet high, had to be removed before the pedestrian bridge could be lowered into place.
'Tis that genius has triumphed and science prevailed, where prejudice flouted and envy assailed. It is that the great
vassals of Europe may see the progress of mind in the land of the free, the progress of mind in the land of the free.
The triumphant grand opening of Buffalo's reconstructed Inner Harbor symbolically recalls the day when Governor DeWitt Clinton wetted the waters of Lake Erie and the Hudson River, opening the Erie Canal in 1825.
As we wed the waters today, I think about all of the people who worked hard for this moment, who crossed party lines, crossed county and city lines, to join hands to say Buffalo must once again regain its position as a great American city.
This is the rebirth of our waterfront. I mean, for the first time in 50 years, we've reopened the waterfront.
I was explaining to the girls we were driving down here about the Erie Canal and the harbor and what a long struggle it's been, and just keep trying like in life and everything else, and sometimes good things happen.
All hail to a project so vast and sublime, a bond that can never be severed by time. Now unites us still closer, all jealousy cease, and our hearts like our waters are mingled in peace, and our hearts like our waters are mingled in peace.
One generation built the Erie Canal, another generation buried it, and a new generation, this generation, dedicates this project to the future of Buffalo in Western New York.
Ere a union so fruitful of glory shall end.
If these walls could talk, what stories they would tell. Not only of the people and the goods that passed through here during the heyday of the Erie Canal, but of the gritty life for those who lived, worked, and played here. Because this is where the West began, and life in the Canal District was as wild as it gets. Buffalo's Erie Canal District was notorious for its saloons, brothels, and boarding houses, a rough and tumble district where sailors, canal boatmen, and dock workers converged to be fed, sheltered, and entertained. Buffalo was the destination point where they all got paid and where they were eager to spend their money for a good time.
Buffalo gals, won't you come out tonight? Come out tonight, come out tonight. Buffalo gals, won't you come out tonight and dance by the light of the moon?
Ladies of the night in a Buffalo Canal Street saloon appear in this 1890 illustration. It may have been a flattering image. Compare their faces to these hard-looking women booked as prostitutes in the same era. They are in their 30s, but appear a lot older. The neighborhood at one time was called the Infected District, with dens of pollution likened to the very nostrils of hell.
This was a hard district. At one point, it had a reputation as the second roughest waterfront in the world behind Shanghai.
To ease the burdens of the hard life, a notorious place of escape was known as Doug's Dive, right along the towpath of the commercial slip. It's believed that's where the term dive was born.
Yeah, this is the good stuff. Patrons don't get none of that. That's Doug's private stock.
William Douglas, the owner, had once been a slave in the South. He ran his basement-level saloon during what was said to be the wildest decades of the district. The true story is so colorful that it has grown into legend, including Doug's rescue when the dive was flooded by a gale in 1874. He jumped up on his bar and was hauled out by a rope.
Oh, Lord, do I remember the rats all around me. Yeah.
And what I love about the history of Doug's Dive is that it gives us, in the contemporary period, a hook to the commercial slip. It gives us the African-American hook.
Where the water? Where the water at?
There are also stories of trapdoors in taverns to dispose of bodies into the canal after not-so-friendly poker games. These stories may or may not have been true, but they sure make intriguing tales.
Buffalo justice, I guess it is. And so if you came here and cheated, there's a good deal. You didn't go back with your ship. Your ship might find you floating down Lake Erie as they left.
Erie Canal business in Buffalo was conducted at the Central Wharf, which was so congested that Great Lakes freighters and passenger boats often competed for space.
It was the commercial engine that drove the district. It had the agencies that did the transshipment of cargoes from the canal boats to the lake schooners, and it was a pretty bustling place.
All this activity on the wharf would end when the railroads bought up the land. Not even federal troops could put a stop to it because in the late 1800s, the railroads drove the economy. The Central Wharf would be shut off to the public. So, as the Central Wharf was rebuilt plank by plank, those with a sense of history and an eye toward the future were elated.
But it's just fantastic to realize for the first time since 1883, the public can now go on Central Wharf.
On July 4th, 2008, Buffalo's Central Wharf came alive again. Thousands gathered on the huge wooden deck to celebrate America's independence and Buffalo's rebirth on the waterfront.
This is terrific. It's so thrilling to see Buffalo being used.
Boats of all shapes and sizes lined the new floating docks below, perfectly positioned for the fireworks that would soon begin.
We can see everything. We're right here. This is perfect. Perfect.
On July 4th, a new chapter opened for the city of Buffalo. On the site where it all began.
After 50 years of talking about waterfront development, it's finally happening in Buffalo, and this is just the beginning.
They are only echoes in time now, the final Sabres goal in the odd, and the ceremonial end to the odd's half-century of active life. But the memories will live on. Long after the odd comes down, for there is a legendary connection that only grows stronger with time.
If Schoenfeld was a virtuoso, then the line of René Robert, Richard Martin, and Gilles Perrault, the French Connection, was a symphony.
Here's May going in on goal. He shoots.
There were no fanfares. The last day we got to see the inside of the odd. Some members of the press wore masks because of the mold. Icicles had formed in the blue section, whose seats will soon go up for auction.
It's going to be a real exciting opportunity to have a farewell address to Buffalo's beloved auditorium.
There's already a piece of the odd in the soul of many a fan, and certainly in many a player who graced the ice here.
People could see you sweat. They were so close to you that they could see the sweat drip off your face, and every given night it was the same fans sitting in every seat, so you became familiar with all of them, and you became friends with a lot of them.
This is where it all started, right here.
Sabres head equipment manager Robert Rip Simonik has been with the team since it was created in 1970. That year, the Odd's 2,200-ton roof was raised 24 feet to expand seating capacity to 18,000. The Odd is an old friend to Rip.
The soft boards, the noisy hits, the loud crowd, people laying on top of you. It was very intimidating for players to come in and play at the Odd. They knew they were going to be in, not only playing the guys on the ice, they were also going to be playing against the fans who were loud, aggressive, but friendly, and they knew the sport from day one.
Construction of the massive auditorium began in 1939 as a public works project in the Depression era. Built at a cost of $3 million, the Waterfront Convention Hall was dedicated as a war memorial, eventually to both world wars, and was built to serve many functions. The Odd's ramp provided a convenient path for circus elephants.
As a kid, we used to go down and watch all the animals come in the side door, up the ramps down in the basement, and we used to sit down close and the clowns would come up. The circus was great at the Odd.
The Odd was home to some of wrestling's most unforgettable Buffalo characters, including crowd favorite Ilio DiPaolo.
Nothing but trash in our audience here at Buffalo's Memorial Auditorium.
I love wrestling. Most of the time I'm there with my mom, my little cousins and everything. It was fun. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm really going to miss the Odd.
So much history made here at the Odd. But what is arguably Buffalo's greatest claim to fame is buried underneath it, the Erie Canal. And the plan is to bring the canal back, symbolically, when the Odd comes down. The retail anchor will be world-renowned Bass Pro, which bills its sports outlets as America's great outdoor stores. A scale model was revealed in October of 2007, reflecting the feel of Buffalo in the 1800s, complete with canals. The retail giant is expected to restore Main Street as the retail center for the region.
It's going to be a major outdoor world store. I know people have been concerned about it being big enough. They've signed an agreement that says that it has to be in scope and scale equal to major market stores such as Atlanta and Toronto, so that's a very good standard.
The plans have changed since Bass Pro first presented its vision almost 4 years ago to convert the Odd into a megastore and even launch boats from the store.
I have a chance right out the back door, customers to go try boats, to actually go fish, have guide service right there from the store.
But it is the lure of a potential sports fishing mecca in Buffalo's Lake Erie waters that continues to whet the appetite of Bass Pro's founder, Johnny Morris, seen here in a rare photo catching bass with Buffalo's Bob Rich Jr. It was Bob Rich and his wife, Mindy, who first got Morris interested in the Western New York market. Mindy serves on the Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation, which is overseeing the whole Canalside project.
We're going to create an attraction down here that's going to be unlike anywhere else in the country. We're going to learn from what other communities have done, and we are going to top them and make ours the best.
The city of Buffalo in western New York State lies under 68 inches of snow after a 4-day blizzard.
America, it seems, has always had an interest and fascination with Buffalo's weather. The early newsreels were packed with snowstorms in the Queen City.
The mayor has proclaimed an emergency, and every able-bodied citizen is called on to help dig out.
General Albert Meyer was the first head of the National Weather Service. He was from Buffalo, which back in 1870 was one of the original 24 forecast offices in the country. Why Buffalo?
It's a connection Buffalo has to the Great Lakes. Some of the worst loss of life in the mid-1800s occurred with shipwrecks on the Great Lakes and major storms that moved across the region. and the beginnings of the National Weather Service developed in the Great Lakes region and here in Buffalo.
So, what project could be better suited for Buffalo's outer harbor than a world-class Weather Experience Center?
This is a fantastic idea that could bring a tourism draw the likes of which we have not had in Buffalo. This is not going to be a stagnant museum with just stagnant displays. We're going to enable people to experience a lake effect blizzard in safety.
The contrast even more apparent as cameraman Don Yerke captured 15-foot high drifts of snow.
They will be subjected to conditions like the blizzard of '77 and made to feel what it was like.
And they'd be bombarded with simulated very, very heavy snowfall and also the accompanying temperatures, and be experiencing the lack of visibility and sort of the frightening aspect, the powerlessness of an actual controlled snowstorm.
The Weather Experience Center will bring the world's weather to visitors and link them up in real time to weather events around the world. Another feature of the center will be a glass side of the building facing the lake. And those of us who know what it is like to struggle against the fury of the lake,
I am literally holding onto this railing to stand up,
will be able to witness storms behind a clear shield.
And a lake effect snow band starts moving through Buffalo. They're going to see it hitting that glass. They may want to walk outside and feel it. And that day, maybe they don't have to hit the blizzard room.
To prepare the outer harbor for projects like the Weather Experience Center, huge boulders were placed along the shoreline to prevent erosion.
These boulders that were mined, I guess, up in Lockport and brought down here, and they will be used for shoreline stabilization.
The boarded-up Pier restaurant came down in October of 2007. It had become a symbol of lost hope for the outer harbor. While the Night Spot, also once known as Shooters, did have some moments of success, getting there by way of the twisted and turned Furman Boulevard was a challenge and a nightmare. But all that is now changing.
The trucks are out there moving asphalt today.
The massive conversion of Furman Boulevard into a landscaped parkway will provide easy access to Buffalo's outer harbor. And as the Pier restaurant was demolished, work was already underway on a greenbelt trail stretching more than a mile along a prime section of the outer harbor shoreline.
It begins to transform the waterfront landscape from nothing to something. And what's taking shape here is that principle that public access is the most important component to waterfront development. And that's the idea of creating a system of parks and public places that are interconnected along the water's edge. It creates a vision.
Access was always important in Buffalo. A century ago, when big ships navigated through Buffalo waters, small water taxis ferried people around as a matter of necessity, moving them from the Erie Canal to the bigger vessels that would take them west. Now, water taxis like this one, with a century-old design, will shuttle visitors around to all types of new attractions on Buffalo's waterfront as the vision becomes a reality. And for Captain Chuck Meyer, who helped build this vessel and knows the river and the lake as well as anyone, Buffalo's future for generations to come is again linked to the water.
Oh, this is great. When I was 6 years old, I built and designed my first sailboat. And I've been sailing for more years than I can remember. And this is something that's going to be very great for my kids, my grandkids, and their kids.
When Congressman Brian Higgins said, "This is a time for believers," at the grand opening of the Erie Canal Harbor, he knew that seeing is believing. For this truly is a time when our city is reclaiming its title of Queen of the Great Lakes, a time when Buffalonians are seeing tangible evidence that real progress is possible in our lifetime. For all of us at News 4, I'm Rich Newberg. Good night.
Governor DeWitt Clinton of New York. His dream changed America's destiny, for he was the father of the Erie Canal, the golden gateway to the west.
Low bridge, everybody down, low bridge, 'cause we're coming to a town.
I believe, and I hope, and I pray that the development of this inner harbor is a metaphor for all the good things to come in Buffalo and Western New York.
This is the kind of catalyst that we need. We need proven success that we can point to and say, look, this is what the forward-thinking, progressive people of Buffalo have been doing, and if they can do it in Buffalo, why can't we do it here?
Oh, I've got a mule, her name is Sal, 15 miles on the Erie
Talking about
Canal.
dad. This here ain't no dad. This here is an establishment.
Here's May going in on goal. He shoots.
Some of the greatest players in the game have played in this arena.
The Buffalo waterfront is resurging. You see $100 million of investment at the outer harbor. You see over $100 million of investment at the inner harbor. And with it, Buffalo will rise again. And it will be within our lifetime.